Welcome to Author Nation Interviews. Today we're diving into writing to build your career. In fact, what would happen if you wrote a series of books? I'm your host, Melody Ann, and I'm here to guide you toward actionable insights and strategies that will help you become a successful nonfiction author. Because at Author Nation, we are committed to equipping you with the tools and the inspiration and the community you need to succeed as a nonfiction author. You can go check out authornation.online for a treasure trove of resources. So whether you're sipping your morning coffee or winding down after a long day, settle in as we explore how you can build your practice, your professional practice through writing. But before we dive in, let me introduce our guest. Catherine Allman, LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist, is a licensed psychotherapist with advanced training in both traditional and spiritual psychology, with 30 years of successful professional experience helping thousands of clients. Catherine is also the author of the best-selling books, the Tantric Mastery series, and she offers online workshops and trainings helping singles and couples create the life they love. Let's welcome Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Melody Ann.
So I'm super curious about spiritual versus traditional psychology. So I'm just going to jump right in. What is the difference between spiritual and traditional psychology?
Well, spiritual psychology includes traditional psychology, but we also are interested in what is the wisdom of Eastern religions, indigenous cultures, psychedelic information. What are the ways that people around the world have dealt with psychology that isn't necessarily Western psychology? So we study all of it. We think that people search for meaning, people search for God, people having all other types of experiences are all interesting. We don't discount them and say they're mentally ill. So if someone, for example, had a vision of seeing Mary or a vision of seeing UFOs, we're interested in that. We don't just go, oh, that's not real. We go, oh, interesting. Let's explore that a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. So how does this shape your work with clients?
Well, I work with a lot of people in the meditation community, a lot of people in the yoga community, because I speak their language. I kind of see everyone, whether they interpret it or not, is really on a spiritual path. They may not talk about it that way or see their life that way, but I think that everyone is looking for meaning. And beyond just solving some basic tasks, what else are you interested in? Where else could we go with that? So I see life as, I'm sure many of your readers do, as an ongoing personal and spiritual growth. And that's one thing I'm able to help people with that perhaps mainstream psychology isn't really interested in.
Yeah, I love that. I have one author client who writes from the perspective of she's a fellow traveler. And so her books are for other fellow travelers.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. And so I think that will really, what you're saying will really resonate with her.
I think so.
Yeah. And you're also working on your PhD right now in transpersonal psychology.
Yeah, my master's, I'm sorry. My master's is in transpersonal also. Transpersonal is most common, more easily known as spiritual psychology, but we study all these kinds of things. And I had some unusual experiences, mystical experiences actually, while my husband and I were making love. And there isn't very much information on that. There's a little bit. So I decided to go back to get my PhD and find out about what the heck happened.
Oh, so can you just tell us a little bit about, like, because PhDs are very niched, right? They're very exacting. Can you just tell us a little bit more about, what you're hoping to discover and share with the world through your PhD?
Yes, it's actually a PhD in psychology with a specialization in transpersonal. And I have been, I'm a licensed relationship therapist. And so I'm interested in these types of experiences that couples can have while they're making love that are actually spiritual experiences.
Okay.
And in mainstream sexuality and mainstream psychology, they're like, what? Isn't that kind of the opposite? Isn't that like an oxymoron? Or isn't spiritual sexuality doesn't go together. And most of my work and my popular books are about, yes, they go together. For some of us, sexuality is a spiritual experience, can be. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm interested in writing about and learning more about. And I decided to go back to get my doctorate to actually see if I could become an expert on this subject.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for explaining that. I'm always really keenly interested in what people are studying in their PhD. Um, and I remember I was talking to somebody who did a PhD on what makes dogs happy, and I'm like, I love PhD, so I'm always asking.
Oh, it narrowed down, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about your books. Why did you decide to write that first book?
Well, my very first book, I was doing a little bit of writing. I had done a few articles. I had been hired to write a few articles for a certain website, and I had maybe 8. And then this was 10 years ago, so then I heard about blogging, and I thought, well, that's good as a therapist to write a blog and so on. I started crafting these little 400-word pieces. And then I found online somebody suggesting, a marketing person suggesting, get 100 of those and publish it. I thought, okay, that's my goal. I'm going to write 100 of these little things. And that turned out to be a really good idea. I would really recommend it to anyone because you can write a book this way in little chunks. And I have used those articles over and over and over to market my practice. So the book is there as itself, and people can like read something before they go to bed, or people tell me all kinds of things. I read it I keep it in the bathroom, or I read it on the bus or whatever. Just little tidbits of things that I might share in a session with a client, or things I think about. And it's just these little blobs of wisdom. And I have sent them out in my newsletter. I have posted on my blog. I have sometimes my professional organization will ask for articles. I post these articles. I'm posting these articles even 10 years later. People don't remember that they've read them. So that's how the first book happened.
Yes, I love that. I have to say, I'm always telling people, people write a piece of content, they put it on their blog, they write an article, something, or they put a thought on Instagram and it disappears and they can never bring it back. And what I'm always saying is, look, you have this core message, and it can be spread out in many different ways, right? Your PhD isn't about everything in psychology, but your PhD is in something very specific, but that's still a vast amount of information. And so you can you can do blogs, and out of these blogs you can make a book, and out of these blogs you can make Instagram posts, and there's never ending content opportunities. And so many people say, like, I don't know where to find my content from. I'm like, you have so much content.
Yeah.
Just use that. Say it again, say it again, say it again.
Yeah.
So this book, let's say 400 or 100 pieces of about 500 words each.
Yeah.
How did you put them together?
Well, I hired someone who said, get some kind of structure. Like this was a best-selling author, and she had used the 7 chakras to organize her book. And I was interested in this system of 8 levels of personal growth. So I kind of put it into those 8 levels. So it's kind of what she explained is it's kind of a metaphysical skeleton for your work. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I kind of like that. So some way to organize your articles. And, it doesn't have to be great, but then you have your first book. And you can just use these articles, like I said, over and over. A marketing person once told me, never use any piece of content only once.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Absolutely. So you kind of use the 8 chakras, and then did you just have separate little articles underneath it that people could dive into? Or did you take all of those articles and form a chapter around it?
No, this one is little tidbits.
Okay. This one is very
short article. It was 100 short articles.
Okay, perfect.
People can just look around in the book or read it cover to cover, or just go for a taste of this or that.
Nice. Now, thinking about it, people say to me, oh, it's writing a book, it's huge, but writing 500 words, that seems doable. So is that how you built like habits and routines, by just thinking about, I'm just writing 500 words, but you have many books?
Well, all of my books have been written in 2 hours a shot twice a week. Because I find it very hard to write by myself. I'm getting a little better training myself now, but I
Yeah.
used to meet with a friend in the library. We would not talk. Maybe we'd have coffee ahead of time, but we didn't review work. We just sat together and worked. And sometimes you just couldn't get yourself to work. You'd be surfing the internet, but at least you plopped yourself down and you were
Yeah.
working on your books. And I finished like 5 books that way. So
Yeah.
people think you have to write every day, and maybe that's good if you can. I can't.
Yeah.
But I have 11 titles now, and I got almost all of them done 2 hours a shot twice a week.
Yeah. That's great. My clients and I do a Monday morning writing session every Monday morning, and I just say, show up, just show up. And
Yeah.
it's about that consistency, right? That, your friend was there and she expected you to show up. Didn't matter how productive or unproductive you were that day, you were showing up. And I find that consistency you become a better writer. You write more words per session because you just keep showing up. Did you experience that?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. All
But
right.
if I hadn't had that support to keep showing up, I wouldn't have finished. And I'd still be sitting there thinking it'd be great to write a book someday.
Yeah. Brilliant. So let's talk. And you've written a book about developing a professional practice as well, haven't you?
I wrote a book for therapists that want to get on insurance panels.
Yeah.
And so that was basically, that was actually my first book. I don't really count it anymore because it's a little out of date, but
Yeah.
that I actually took a workshop that I had taught, and I took the transcriptions, and then you can't just publish your transcriptions, you have to work with them. But I worked with the transcriptions and turned that into a little ebook.
Nice. I think that's really clever. So let's talk about your books. How do they contribute to your professional practice?
Well, occasionally I'll get someone who wants to work with me who's read my book. That doesn't happen as much as you think it might, but I think it gives you an excuse to be part of your community, to reach out, to help people, even if they can't afford your fee, to give them something lower cost if they can't afford to work with me, because psychotherapy is expensive. And this is a way to work with me for the price of a book or an ebook. So I think that enhances the practice. I think there's a metaphysical exchange. If you give and you give and you give, and then it comes back to you. So it doesn't directly come back that I directly get new clients that often from my books, but I think it comes back that I have a full practice because of that giving.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, if you're looking to learn more about Catherine, you can do that at catherinealmond.com. I'm really enjoying this conversation. And I'll not only put that, I will also drop her YouTube channel in the show notes because there is a vast amount of really informative videos there as well. So you can go check that out. That will be in the show notes. All right. So, Catherine, you said that primarily people don't read a book and then think, oh, I have to work with this therapist. Has your book been a springboard for other opportunities like getting on stage, being on a panel, being on a radio show, being on a podcast? Are there other things that the series of books have brought to you that have enhanced your reputation, your career, how the world sees you?
Oh, definitely. Somebody set up a speaking series for me. So once a month they paid for people to come, and I didn't make any money at it, but I got exposure and I got to help people and got some clients from that. They set up a dating class for me to teach because I have a particular way of talking about dating from a tantric perspective. That was my first book. We'll talk in a minute about that book series because I think that might help some writers out there. It sets up invitations for podcasts and radio shows. So all kinds of invitations. You kind of go into the next level once you have a book.
Yeah.
It really helps. And then I think clients too are attracted that they see that you've written a book or books.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point. So people don't necessarily come through the book, but they may see you speaking somewhere and they're looking for a therapist. And so they go look you up. And they're like, okay, this person has written a series of books. She's been on stage. She's been on taught classes. And then the way they're evaluating who to work with, obviously you will stand out. So how can other psychologists and other professionals kind of take this idea of books, and I know you have courses as well, so maybe you want to touch on that and integrate that into their practice to help make their practice successful?
Well, I think for me, it's a sense of how can I help? So we go into this profession because we want to help people, and we'd like to make a good living as well. But I think if we focus on how can I help, how can I give, and not worry so much about if that's getting paid so much. So a lot of writers, for example, will say, oh, I'm going to write this book and make a lot of money. And I'm like, you're probably not going to make a lot of money on your books. You know, everything I make on my books, I turn around and spend on marketing because I'm lucky enough I don't have to try to live on my book income, because that would be sad. Even though my books are bestsellers on Amazon, it's not really that much money. So I think if you're building a practice and you think, I want to be able to help people at all levels. I want to help the people, of course, who can afford to come see me for psychotherapy. I want to help the next tier of people who maybe can't afford psychotherapy. They can afford a group. And another level, how can I help people who can afford to buy a book? And then how can I help people who really don't have extra money, but they can watch YouTube?
Yeah.
So you just really look at how can I help anyone who wants help from me? I'm here. Here, I'm giving to you at whatever level you'd like to, receive. And if not, that's fine too. But I just want to help in whatever way I can. And I think for a professional, that attitude of wanting to help really comes through. People feel a certain integrity in that. And they know you're just not in it for the money. And that's very much more attractive to people.
Yeah. And that was really well said. Thank you. All right. Tell us about your series of books.
I did this workshop called Tantric Dating because I had got to a certain point in my life where I just thought, I'm a disaster at dating. I've had 2 terrible marriages and I'm just not getting this. And I want to meet my soulmate and I'm doing it all wrong. So I started figuring out what I was doing wrong. I started this intensive dating thing. I hired a coach and went back to therapy, and I started coming up with my own ideas, and I found my perfect love. And I thought, I'm going to help other people with this. I wrote this little book called Tantric Dating, and I was not even going to make it into a hard print copy. I was just going to, and all of a sudden, someone called me up and said, my girlfriend from Seattle called me up and said, your book is on a 100 best dating books of all time. I said, what? So I started taking this book a little more seriously. It was people called Book Authority. It was the top 37th book, dating book of all time or whatever. I'm like, and then it started becoming a bestseller on Amazon. So it was during the pandemic, and I was noticing that people were consuming content in series. This is not news to anybody now, but in the pandemic, it wasn't as obvious. And I thought, yes, everyone knows series for fiction books, but what about nonfiction? I'm just going to try it. So I wrote 2 more books in the series. So I have 3 books, and they do all sell each other. All 3 of them are bestsellers in their little category on Amazon, in the sacred sexuality category. And I'm working on 3 more now, so I'll have the whole series. But it went from one surprise book that I didn't think that much about to 3 bestsellers in their category.
Really well done. And I just, I like that, I like how you've put this all together, right? It's, I wasn't really thinking about a whole series of books, and yet all of a sudden it was knocking on my door, right? And you found that it's another way to help people, because as you said, we all have our ability to pay, and yet we all want support. And so this book series is just another way that you can support people. And it reminds me a little bit of other books. For example, Stephen Covey has the 7 principles of excellence. I have the name wrong, sorry, but he has one for teens, and he has one for couples, and he has one, and the 5 love languages. There's one for couples, there's one for teens, there's one for work. And you're doing the same idea. You're taking this core content that we were talking about, and you are, because it's a lot of information, and you are putting it into a series of books that either one person could read or for slightly different audiences. Can you tell us a little bit about your audience? Is it one audience? Is it?
Well, what I'm really trying to do in my work is take kind of sophisticated concepts and put them into everyday language.
Yeah.
Because I think that why does it have to be so difficult and complex? It's not, So I'm trying to. My audience is someone who wants to read something quickly and get the concepts and move on. So my books are all short. They're priced inexpensively. One day I went and I saw that one of my books was most wished for, and I thought, I don't want to be in the most wished for category. I want that person to afford the book. So I immediately dropped the price.
Oh.
Because I thought, I don't want you to wish for it. I want you to buy it.
Yeah,
so
read it.
so they're actually all, I actually didn't do that concept, which is really smart, about for different ages or different audiences. Mine are all for the same audience. It's just probably all this content would have made one massive book, but it's just more fun to get it in smaller pieces, I think.
Yeah.
If you read about, marketing for authors, all of us, me too, our attention span has gotten much smaller. I still like to read big, boring books, but most people don't. So I think getting your content down into something easily digestible is really good.
Yeah. And I also find, as an editor, that having smaller segments allows your reader to read a bit and then stop and think, walk away, let the subconscious work and deal with that piece before you come back and read another piece. If it, when it's complex material. So, all right, where can people find you and where can they buy your books?
Well, you have my, isn't that my website right there?
Yep.
That's Catherine
Almond. If you're listening on the podcast, it's catherinealmond.com. And we'll also drop the YouTube and Facebook. And your books are where?
They're all on Amazon. They're also on other places, but Amazon sells 70% of the books. So they're also on Ingram Spark. For those of you who are writers, they're also on Smashwords and Draft to Digital and all these other places. I'm on social media, Instagram, Facebook, all the usual places.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on Author Nation today. I hope this conversation has provided you with some sparking ideas on how you can write a series and the inspiration to actually do it. Grab a friend, meet 2 hours a week, and just start writing. Remember to visit authornation.online to uncover a wealth of resources for you. And we really appreciate your support. So we'd love some feedback. We'd love a like. We'd love a comment. We'd love a share. I'm sure you know someone who's in professional practice who would really benefit from this. So please share that, because your participation helps us continue to deliver these insights to you. So keep writing, keep creating, and keep sharing your unique stories with the world.